Deuteronomy 22, verse 5. It says, the woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man. The next phrase says, neither shall a man put on so we change the last part slightly. We had some discussion about how to break this passage down. We all agreed with the first bit, I hope. This first bit here. The woman shall not, neither shall a man. Remember that? All that straightforward. And then we saw wear and put on. And then it got a little messy. What did we say then? My brother?
We say that is going with garment. Then which pertain is pertain is going with pertain unto man is going with woman. Go along. And we say that one is carrying.
Sister Jackie? Do you remember what we said? Can't remember? Could you do it? Maybe we'll do it from scratch then if we can't remember. So, are you happy with the first part? The woman shall not, neither shall the man. Wear, put on. Well, how would we break the rest of the passage down? Sorry? Repeat my question. We have two sentences and I want to try to line them up. So, do you agree with the first portion, the first column? It says, the woman shall not, then underneath it says, neither shall a man. The suggestion is they say the same thing. Then the second column says wear, and then underneath that it says put on. So they line up. Agree with that? Could you line up the rest of the passage? The top one, the first row says, that which pertaineth unto a man, and the second row says, garment a woman's, or in the original it says a woman's garment. Where would we make the break? Sorry? I didn't hear what you said, sorry. The way I've broken the line, it's good. Yep, I agree it's good. But we can break it down more. We broke it down more yesterday. We want to see if we can, how can we break that down more, the last part? That which pertaineth. Like that. That which pertaineth. Oh, here? Okay, sorry. Like that. Sister Dorcas. You're going to do it like that? Same way? Sure that's good? So, the word pertaineth in English, what does it mean? To pertain. Belong. So we'll change this then. We'll say that which belongs. Can I change that to two? Yeah? To a man. You okay with that, Sister Jackie? Yeah? That which belongs to a man. So, let me go to a dictionary if I can find one. The word pertain. It's a Latin word which means to hold. Okay, pertain means to hold. So we've gone from Hebrew to English to Latin. So the Latin word is connected to the English. It has nothing to do with the original. So all I've done is I've taken that English word pertaineth, changed it into a modern word called pertain. Took the eth off, pertain. Are we okay with that? See what I've done? And then this is the definition. To belong, to be the property, the right or duty of. You okay with that? To belong, to be the property. Give a Bible verse for that, shall we? 2 Chronicles chapter 12 verse 14. 2 Chronicles chapter 12 verse 14. My sister at the front. Could you read that verse for us? 2 Chronicles 12 verse 4. Is that what I said before? 2 Chronicles chapter 12? I said something else, didn't I? So I thought I said something else. I don't know what I said. Did I say chapter 14 or something? Yeah. I don't know why I said that. Yeah. 2 Chronicles 12 verse 4. It's been a long morning. You've got to read a bit louder so we can all hear.
And he took the fine city which pertained to Judah, and came into Jerusalem.
Good. And he took the fenced cities which pertained to Judah and came to Jerusalem. So even though we haven't read the context, someone came and destroyed the fenced cities which pertained to Judah. and then he came to Jerusalem. So can we see the word pertain there means belonged? Yeah? It naturally fits there. And he took the fenced cities which belonged to Judah. Everyone okay with that? So we agree with Sister Dorcas' definition. Yeah? In fact, that's the definition that we had yesterday. So, that which belongs to a man. I'll give another one, if you like. Acts chapter 1, verse 3. That one is good. Acts 1, verse 3. So just write it down. I'll read it to you. You don't have to turn there. Acts 1, verse 3. To whom also he showed himself alive after his passion. What's the passion? His passion. Who's he talking about? Who had a passion? Sorry? Strong desire? No, it doesn't mean strong desire in this context. Who's it says his. His. Who was that talking about? Christ. Have you all heard of a movie called The Passion? We heard of the movie called The Passion? We must have heard it. It was a famous movie about Christ. Did you hear about that, my brother? Yeah? So it was called The Passion because the passion is what? What is the passion? Benjamin, what's the passion? Just take a guess. What do you think the passion is? You watched the movie. We caught him on camera. The suffering. It's not just suffering for 3.5 years or 33 years, is it? It's just the suffering of those final that final day really. Final 2 days, yeah? Everyone okay with that? So it's the final suffering of Christ. Gethsemane, the trial, the cross, the beating, all of that was the passion. Some people might call it the Passion Week. Oh, Acts 1, verse 3. To whom also this got nothing to do with our study, showed himself alive after his passion by many infallible proofs, being seen of them 40 days, and speaking of the things pertaining to the kingdom of God. He spoke about the things pertaining to God's kingdom. Acts 1:3. That means the things connected to God's kingdom. Yeah? Connected to, belonging to. We're okay with that? Giving you 2 proof texts to show you what the word pertaineth means, or to pertain. Coming back to our passage. That which belongs to a man. Then underneath that, what would we put? Sister Dorcas. Doing the bottom one. He says, neither shall a man put on the garment of a woman, but it says a woman's garment. So if we put it back in its original, it says a woman's garment. So which bits line up with which? Sorry? Which bits line up? Because you said you agree with this line up. Yeah? What does this mean? Woman's. What does woman's mean? Means to belong to. So you've got belong to here, and you've got belong to here. Yeah? So you have woman, then you can have, no, I don't want to say, I won't do that. So you have woman in the singular. When you put an apostrophe S, it doesn't mean lots of women. The reason why I was going to do it is because I was going to say woman's, but there's no such word as woman's, is there? because you change it to women when it becomes plural. Yeah? So when you put an apostrophe S, it means belonging to the woman. Everybody know that? Yeah? That? So if we change this, what does this mean? Let's change that then. A woman's, how would we say that? Let's take that. How would we, what does that mean? A woman's. My brother? Are we okay with that? Belong to a woman. So we've got belong to a woman here, and we've got belong to a man here. So we've got belongs to a man, and here we've got belong to a woman. So in this bit, at the bottom it just said garment. It doesn't have the belong bit to it, does it? The belong bit's here. So if that's belong, don't we have to move it? Agree with that? So could we do this? Move it like that. Belongs to a man. And then it would say, this bit says belong to a woman. Yes? All good? You sure? Okay. So here we've got a garment. Where do we see garment here? Which word is garment? Sister Fiona, which word is garment? Up here. You agree that wear means to put on, but no problem with that. So hopefully you agree that pertaineth means to belong. So it says belong unto a woman. We take the apostrophe S off. Agree with that? So this one, where does it say garment? Sorry? Unto a man is here. We're only in this bit here. Where does it say garment up there? All of that says garment, that which? I want to line up things as best as we can. If I wanted to have garment here, would I put that which here? Would I put that which to represent garment? So I've got, neither shall a man put on garment belong to a woman. You okay if I wrote that here? Belong unto a woman. So all I've done is taken out the apostrophe and just changed it. Yeah? So it would read, neither shall a man put on garment belong unto a woman. So make that sentence sound a bit better. Sister Joy. Just make that sound a little bit better. Add a word in or whatever you need to do to make it sound a bit. The bottom one. Neither shall a man put on garment belong unto a woman. Okay, so you put an S here because it could be singular or plural, but then you said that. So I'm going to put that in here. Do you agree with that, Sister Fiona? Does that read better? Neither shall a man put on garment. We could put a garment that belong unto a woman. You okay with that? Or the way Sister Joy did it, because I had belong singular, I had to put garments here. Either way, so I've just put belongs and garment, and then she put garments and belong. Does that make sense? So if I've got that belongs here, what do I need to put here up here? Sister Monica? Sorry? What's the question? I'd like this last part of the sentence tidied up. So I want to know where to put all the words in the right place. Which belongs unto a woman. So you don't like the word that? So I can put which, it means the same thing. So is the top one okay now? What does this word mean? Sorry? So it needs tidying up. You can see that, Sister Dorcas? Needs tidying. It needs to be tidied up. It's not right, is it? It is right or it's not right? So we've got that or which. Either way, you can have... You agree with that? But it's not lining up properly. Sister Elizabeth, what's the problem? On the board. What should not be where? That one. What should be there instead? Nothing? You've got to speak louder and slower, sorry. Replace the words at the bottom with the ones that are at the top. Is that what you said?
Is that what you want?
No, I want you to get it all to line up properly.
Because I don't know how the word belongs came.
You don't know how that came there?
Yesterday we said it should be, neither shall a man put on the garment of a woman. Without the apostrophe.
So that means belong to. You agree with that? Apostrophe S means possession. So we took the apostrophe out and we put the word belong. She owns it.
Okay, then we can put the word that in there.
Put the that here. That way. Yeah? So we either put the either have to move this one here or move.
Three options. We put it aside or remove it or transfer.
We put it that side. Option 1, remove it. Option 2,
It remains there.
or it remains there. Okay, so if it remains there, there's a problem. Because we've got this one in the wrong place then, don't we?
Yeah. How much should be there?
Okay, so we move that over there. Okay. So we'll do this. So this is where we got to yesterday. So is that okay now? You said it was okay before. Every time I've done that, you said it was okay. Are you really sure it's okay now? Okay. Are we okay with this now? Sister Amy, you happy now? Finally. You're happy with me? My brother.
Yeah, I'll see, like if we put like that, and then that belongs, we should remove that, and then we also replace with the which.
Okay, so we'll do that because no one likes that. I don't know why. I like that. So all the weak-minded people are confused. 'Cause I know grammar less than every one of you, and if you could all figure that bit out, I'm sure you could figure out that here, that is not that. But we'll help you out, since you helped us out. Everyone fine now? So, let's paraphrase. I won't do the paraphrase. The woman shall not. Okay with that? I haven't paraphrased that. It's the same one. The woman shall not wear the garment which belongs to a man. Are we okay with that? So, that here means the thing which belongs to the man. Yes? Everybody agree with that? So I'm going to change that to the thing. Or that thing. Yes? And how do we know it's a garment? How do we know it's a garment? Because of the word wear. The woman shall not wear the thing that belongs to a man. So we know it's a garment because it has the word wear connected to it. Everybody okay with that? So underneath it's going to say, the man shall not, yeah? The man shall not wear the garment which belongs to a woman. Everyone fine with that now? The woman shall not wear the thing, the garment, which belongs to a man, and neither shall the man wear the garment which belongs to a woman. All neat and tidy? Okay, so that's how most people are going to approach the verse. It's all straightforward. Just remind us, what did we look at yesterday when we discussed the first part of that repeat and enlarge? What did we notice? We noticed the chiasm. Can you just simply tell us the chiasm that we noticed? It's here. Just shout out the words. Woman shall not. I'm going to say neither is not. Yeah? So we saw a chiasm here. And then we tidied all this up. Okay, so we've spoken about Miller's rule. And we speak about, yes, we spoke about another one as well. I wasn't going to address that one. I'll leave this here because I think people might have a problem with the second one, so I left that deliberately. So when we start talking about Miller's rule, rule number 1 says what? Put your hand up. Who's going to shout out? Okay, so that's what the rule says, but what we have our own. Can we say it? We have our own version of it? We'll get into trouble from our enemies. They're listening. How do we want to? And I mean it in a serious way, because it says every word shall have its proper bearing upon the subject, something like that. but we want to understand what that really means. So someone tell us what we... So I think it's on the back of one of the boards. My brother? Yeah? Some words are more important than the other. We don't want to make that part of the rule because all words are important. Find the most important word. It's part A. Sorry? According to the subject. So give it all in one go. Find the most important word according to the subject. My brother?
Get the most significant thought according to the subject.
Okay, so we went from word to what? Word to? We went from word to phrase, and then phrase to? I had different answers. To theme or thought? What did you say, Brother Wilson? Theme, and then from theme we can go to thought. Okay, so we end up saying, look for the most significant thought or concept that relates to the subject that we're dealing with. Everybody okay with that? So when you do that, what words, because if you have a thought, it has to be a word or a phrase that thought is created from. We okay with that? Or sometimes the words don't even exist in the verse, but the thought or intent is there, connected or created by the words that are already written. Does that make sense? Sometimes you look for the exact word, sometimes you look for the exact phrase, and sometimes when you read the words that are in front of you, they create a thought or an idea or a concept. And we can take that. Everybody okay with that idea? Anybody not? Anybody doesn't understand? Are we sure? Okay, so when we do all of that, one thing that we need to be careful about is that we're doing that all in the same language. When we start thinking about the subject and the significant thought or the word, you have to think about it in the language that you're tackling the subject in. Is everybody okay with that? Does everybody understand what I just said? Yes? Sister Emma, you agree with that? You understand? Can you say it in your own words? We've got the rule bit, but in the context of the language, we've got to make sure we know what we're doing. And sometimes we get confused on this. If you're studying the verse in English, you must look at the thought or the concept in English. Tell me what you've done? Yeah? Okay, so we're done. So if you're reading in English, the thought, the concept, the idea, which is the most important one that's dealing with the subject, it has to be in the same language. Do you understand that? Did we follow that rule just now? Brother Kuta, did we follow that rule? Are you sure we did? Yes? My brother, did we follow that rule? You certain? Sister Emma? Did we follow rule number 1 when we just did all of this? Yeah? Brother Rogers, rule number 1, most significant thought, most significant word or idea according to the subject. So I'm not going to ask you what the most significant thought or idea in here is. I'm not asking that question. But the question I'm asking is, explain again, Sister Emma, how we describe that. Okay, so if you're looking at the words in English, you must consider the thought or the concept in English. Show me when we did that here. Either the word or the concept. Which word did we look at and we focused on that? Pertaineth. We looked at the word pertaineth and we contracted it to a root word which was to pertain, which means to belong. Are we okay with that? So we took the thought or the idea that was in English and tried to understand it in English. Are we okay with that? Then we took another one. What other one did we do? To connect it to something. What else did we do, Brother William? Pertaineth means belong, so we've got belong now. And then what did we do, Brother William?
We also made sure the word woman makes sense.
Bit more. So which word are we looking at?
We looked at the word pertained.
We've done that one. Which word are we looking at now? And you just said?
Woman.
We looked at the word woman. And in the English, the thought, the concept, the idea is what? Because he doesn't say woman.
Puts it in a possessive.
So we saw it was woman apostrophe S. And that does what? Puts it into a possessive form. So we looked at the thought of the concept in the English for woman's, and then it said belongs to a woman. So we got belong and belong. Are we okay with that? Can we see how we're using rule number 1? We're not using the most important thought. I'm not suggesting that, because it may or may not be, depending on what the subject was, but we're approaching it with the thought of the concept in its original language. Are we okay with that? Any questions on that? So that's rule number 1. Now rule number 5 says what? The Bible must be its own expositor. Bit more. That's part A. Because it's a rule of itself. So you've just quoted the rule as Miller's given it. Now give us the rule as we discussed it, as we understand it in our class. All you did was just quoted the rule. Now I want you to explain what you just said, which means you have to say it in your own words. So rule number 1 says, every word has its proper bearing on the subject at hand. That means every single word does. We already know that, otherwise there would be wasted words. That is not helpful, I don't think. So I'm saying look for the most important word that's connected to the subject, and it becomes a much more pragmatic, useful rule. So rule number 5 says, let the Bible be its own expositor, and the reason is because it's a rule unto itself. And then it has a little bit more after that. I'm not asking you to quote the rest of it. It's about basically bad teachers. So explain the rule as we spoke about it. And so what I mean by that, I want a working definition of how to use the rule, so it becomes a workable tool. It's okay to have some fancy gadget and you don't even know how to use it. Sometimes it's better to have a simple tool that you're actually familiar with. So I'm saying the rule as it's originally written, most people can memorize it, but they don't know what it means in practical day-to-day use. That's what we need to become familiar with when we deal with Miller's rules. What we do is we idolize them, put them on a pedestal, memorize them. But if we were to say, how do you actually use that rule? People don't have a good feel of how to actually use it. So we went through our class, and I want to know, what did we end up saying about the rule? That's what I'm asking you. We cannot define a word by using any other book. Why? Why? Why can't I explain the Bible? Can I explain the Bible? Let me ask you that, because you just said I can't. So I'm going to ask you, can I explain the Bible? I can explain using... Okay, so start again then. The rule says what? How would you explain the rule to someone? Rule number 5. You have to say what it says and why. Say that again. You should not guess. Should not guess. You to find where that word's repeated. It's repeated in a dictionary somewhere. Why? The last bit. Why? Why can't you use a dictionary? So the dictionary may not follow the same rules. So anyone else wants to have a go at the rule? Sorry? So we have, try and put it into a sentence. All the verses work by the same rules. They can't contradict each other. Personal opinion works by other rules. Anyone else want to have a go? My sister. What are the other rules? It said personal opinion works by other rules. Tell me the 3 other rules. 3. No, it's not. He didn't mean that. Your personal opinion. Tell me the 3 rules that you're running by. Guessing, rule number 1. A creed, rule number 2, which means your own opinion. And you should not be proud, rule number 3. So personal opinion, they're the 3 rules. If someone's following one of those rules, don't trust them. If they're following the rules of the Bible, we can trust them. Okay? Brother Rogers, tell us the rule, number 5, in a sentence.
The Bible is its own explainer because it's the only one that understands its own rules.
The Bible is its own explainer because
It's the only one that understands its own rules.
it's the only thing that understands its own rules.
We can trust that because the different Bible writers do not guess, they do not have certain sectarian creeds.
And they're not puffed up.
and they're not proud.
So we can do that because when you get two Bible authors that are thousands of years apart, we have a confidence that they're all using the same rule. And we find that they don't have their own opinion, that they're not guessing, which means that they're led by God, and they're not proud people. So all those three things actually end up saying that God is leading them, or they have a message given by God. So that all sounds nice when you say it like that. It's like a clinical, simple rule or law. But in real life, does it work like that? Of course, the answer is going to be yes. But when you start reading from the New Testament to the Old, does it have that feel to it? No, it doesn't. Don't those statements look like they contradict one another? Yes? And just a surface reading, a surface understanding, Deuteronomy 22 verse 5, men and women are both wearing robes, and hopefully now we're beyond the idea that it's to do with the style of the robe, or women have a little fringe on their robe and the men don't. And then Ellen White's going to take that and say, that means what? Women can't wear trousers and men can't wear dresses. And the verse does not mean that. So do we have confidence that Ellen White is actually following the same rules as Moses? How do we address that issue? It comes up over and over again. Paul does that. Ellen White does that frequently. Takes passages and just bends them to her will. Would we like to say that? Bends them to her will? Or we don't feel comfortable using such language? Would we like perhaps a less toxic subject? Habakkuk chapter 2. Write the vision and make it plain upon tables, so that he who understandeth may run with that. And Ellen White tells you what vision is that. She says it's the vision of the 2300 days. And is that true? It's not true. Habakkuk knows nothing about the 2300 days. He's talking about the punishment that's going to come upon God's people. We can prove that. Habakkuk chapter 1 verse 5 and 6. We know that if you've watched or studied yourself on chapter 1 and chapter 2. So Ellen White says, forget all of that. It's 2300 days, Daniel 8:14. Ellen White, agree with the Millerites version. That's not bad enough. What else is she going to do? Where else will she go? Ezekiel chapter 12. She's going to go to Ezekiel chapter 12 and she's going to do the same thing. And not actually going to do the same thing, talking about a totally different subject. They're actually going to end up twisting the verse and actually manipulating what tarrying means. Do we know that? How did the Millerites use tarrying? When they say tarrying, it's nothing to do with our subject. We have a line here, and we have a waymark here. Where do we put the tarrying time? Left or right? We put it here, don't we? We should know that. Why do we put it here? Because we said, we predicted, or we knew the event was going to happen here. It didn't happen, and so we wait. Yes? And then we say, it's going to happen here. We agree with that? So this concept or this idea, it's taken from Habakkuk, I understand, but it's also taken from Ezekiel 12. And in Ezekiel 12, what does it look like? So it doesn't look like that. Regardless of even getting the prophecies wrong, if I can say it that way, what does the line look like? Where'd you put... I don't want to give too much away. Just tell me how you draw that. On this one, I've got... Ignore that one. I've got 2 waymarks and a tarrying time between them. So this is the Millerite version of Ezekiel 12. What's Ezekiel's version of Ezekiel 12? Put your hand up. My sister. With the scar. Yeah. What's Ezekiel's version look like? Sorry? Yeah, show me where to put it. Should I just put tarrying time? You tell me where to put tarrying time. Here? Put tarrying time. And tell me where to put waymarks. Here? You tell me where to stop. I've got to go off the line, or you've got to come up, one of the two. Before or after? Before. So here? Here? Anything else? No, good. Nothing else. This is Ezekiel's version of it. Does it even look the same? Doesn't even look the same. There's a waymark missing. So it's different prophecy, and even the structure is different. So all I want to point out is that when we use rule number 5, we use this sanitized version. All the prophets follow the same rules. They all reinforce what each other said. They're reliable, they're all trustworthy. So it all sounds good. Don't trust a human being that comes with their own guesswork, with their own creed, and with their own pride. Don't trust people like that. But you can trust people who take an original Bible verse, which speaks about Babylonian captivity, change it to the 2300 days, which is about the cleansing of the sanctuary, and then change it more by taking out a waymark and put the tarrying time in a completely different structure. Would we all agree that's pretty bad? Yeah? Different vision, different structure. Now, if my brother had done that, what would we have said? Which one of those three would he have failed? Guesswork, creed work, or pride? We see he would have guessed. He said, no, all of my church believes this. I'm part of the movement. I got it from someone else. So, can we see, if we applied this to a person, we would say this is completely rubbish. Just because it's Ellen White that says that, what do we say? It's all good. It's all clean. So, hopefully we're all mature enough to understand that neither I nor any of us in this class have any concerns about Ellen White and her prophetic role. But I want to point out that the problem... No, let me say it this way. Why am I addressing this issue? Why am I even highlighting this? Option 1, I don't like Ellen White and I'm attacking her. Option 2, I want to make a different point. Which one? Okay, you're my friends, UK, option 2. That's good, we're together. So what is the option 2? Why? What do I want to point out? Sister Schneider, what do I want to point out? different prophets have different perspectives. Okay, that's true. But there's more than that. Because who did that? Yeah, who did this messing around with Ezekiel? Who did that messing around? Which person did it? Miller and his associates did that. Yeah? So Miller did this. Is that good if Miller does it? Does he have a creed, guesswork, pride? So what are we saying Miller is then? This rule number 5, when it says the Bible is a rule unto itself, we could say the Bible is this singular thing. But when you start saying it's a law unto itself and it's its own expositor, its own dictionary, what you're forced to do is go from one person to another. And when you do that, what I don't think we fully appreciate is you are guessing, if guessing is the right way to say it, you're assuming something. What are you assuming? You're assuming that Moses and Matthew are what? Are equal, on the same level, aren't you? That the authority that Moses has is the same authority that Matthew has. Because if Matthew was of a different quality, we don't use the word quality. The rule says the rule says what? He would be of a different rule, wouldn't he? He wouldn't be using the same rules as Moses. He'd be using some other rules, which would be guesswork, sectarian creed, or pride. And if he's not using one of those three, he must be using the same rule that Moses used. Are we okay with that? The way we normally express it is, because we don't go to all that detail, we say, Matthew was a prophet, it's all fine. Moses was a prophet. They're all prophets, so they're all reliable. We just skip all of that and just make that statement. So, if this was just Miller, people would complain, perhaps. But Ellen White rubber stamps that, says this is all good. So therefore we say, because she's a prophet, the same standing as Moses, everything is fine. They can do that. So the reason I'm highlighting that is, if rule number 5 says, the Bible is a rule unto itself, what is it actually saying when it says the Bible is a rule unto itself? How can we even stretch that further? Because we make the Bible a book. Then the second part, or depending on how you break the verse down, what does it then go on to? From a book to? It goes from a book to a person. So if you compare and contrast, if it's a person at that end, what should it be at the front end? Person. It should be person and person. So we go from prophet to prophet. So we can trust any portion of the Bible. Why? Because the teacher was reliable. We call them a prophet. And as long as the teacher, that human being, follows the same rules, they become reliable, don't they? So I don't want to turn every person who is a good expositor into a prophet. I'm not trying to suggest that. But when you start pushing the boundaries, especially on prophetic issues, and it starts looking different, that person is turning into a prophet. Are they not? Isn't that how we're viewing them? Because if it's just a basic observation of what the Bible is saying, like pertaineth means belong, does that make Sister Emma a prophet? No, she's using these rules. So we're okay with that. But when we start doing strange things, then you come into a place where it's not just a commentator. This is what prophets do. When they take statements from a previous prophet and they apply them in a different way. Yes? The most obvious place that we do that, I want to suggest, is Daniel 11 verse 40, where we create a second time of the end. We create a second time of the end based upon the reading of what verse? What verse? Book. Daniel, chapter 11. So which verse? Not 40. Not 40. Verse 36 is based upon our understanding, our version of verse 36. Verse 36 is controlling how we're going to approach verse 40. And we don't have prophetic license to do that. If you take Miller to be a prophet, Miller and his associates to be a prophet, and Ellen White's not only her general confirmation of that history, but her statements that tell you what the time of the end is. At the time of the end is 1798, and what will she say forever after that? We are where? We are in the time of the end. She never varies her position. It's in 100% agreement with the Millerite position. So we come and we say, we don't like your version of verse 36. We're going to change a king into the king. We're going to argue different ways to do it. That's what it says in the King James. I'm not convinced that's a really powerfully strong argument. I explained why, because we change it in verse 45 afterwards. Remember, we did all of that. And in fact, the evidence that we had for doing that was what? Lich is whom? Empowerment of the first angel. And we're the first angel. We, or Jeff Pippinger, was the first angel's messenger. So if he has the authority to change or to make a position, so does Miller and Lich. So what we're doing is, we are taking ourselves into a place, when you talk about rule number 5, because he talks about trusting prophets, not just teachers. It's a bit more extensive than that. Okay, so that was a distraction on what I wanted to go to verse 5 about. Verse 5, the Bible should be its own dictionary. When you do a study and it talks about its own expositor, its own dictionary, what you have to do is remain in the language. We discussed that in the context of Rule 1. Now we're going to discuss it in the context of Rule 5. You can't take a word in Rule 5 and try to understand what it means in a different language. You can't expose it or define it from its own language if you're going to say the Bible is a rule unto itself. If you're going to go to one portion of inspiration and another one, the secondary place you go to, you cannot use another language to do that. So let me say that in a way that makes sense to you, hopefully. You've got an English word here. You can't go somewhere else and use a Hebrew definition to explain that. If you're going to explain the English, you have to remain in the English. So we went to 2 different Bible verses. Where did we go? Acts chapter 1 verse 3 and 2 Chronicles 12:4. We looked at the word pertaineth. In which language? English. The first one that we went to, the one from Chronicles, what was that word pertaineth? No, not this definition. Did you look at it? You only see it in the King James. It was italicized. It's not even there. Did we care? No. We don't even care if it's italicized. Should it be there? Should it be there or not? It should be there. King James translators should put it there. If it wasn't there, would the verse make any sense? In English? No, it wouldn't. So it has to be there. So we don't care about it's being italicized. We say it's there. So we've got pertaineth, pertaineth, pertaineth. They all mean the same thing. We're following rule number 5. It has to be done in the English. Everyone okay with that? So this is one of the reasons why we can trust Miller and the work that he did. Because when I say this carefully, because it's not 100% accurate, when he did his analysis, using rule number 5, did he jump languages? No. How do we know he didn't jump languages? What's our story that we have? It's kind of like children's story about him. What do we say about him? That we say he didn't jump stories, he didn't go to the Greek and the Hebrew. How do we know that? What tool did he use? He used a concordance, but a special one. He uses Cruden's concordance. And what's different about Cruden's concordance? Why don't we use Cruden's concordance? All it is a cross-reference. It's not very helpful. It just tells you every time you find this English word in the Bible. But what we want to understand is what the word means. We like to use dictionaries. Cruden's concordance is not a dictionary. It's a fundamental difference. It's fundamentally different to Strong's or Brown Driver Briggs. It's not the same. All it is an old-fashioned search engine. A search engine doesn't define things, it just searches them for you. Can we see that? So the main tool that he's going to use, if we can say it this way, is a search engine. He doesn't use a dictionary. And he wants to follow his own rules. If he was like us and we had all these tools, he'd probably become lazy and make mistakes. We okay with that? Okay, so all I wanted to point out in all of that, besides the bits and pieces that I thought were useful to see, was when we've approached this verse, what we've done is approach it in the English. And in the English, line 1, what are the 2 key words? The 2 key words. We already discussed the first one. Have a guess. Line 1, which are the key words that we want to talk about? The ones that we spent a lot of time with or had issues with. Word 1. Pertaineth. Word 2. Sister Emma, word 2. This was your issue. That. Are we okay? The 2 words are that and pertaineth. What does that mean? Brother Paul, what does that mean? No. What does that mean? Don't whisper. Not sure? My sister? What does that mean? One word. What does that mean? In our story, what does that mean? That means garment. We agree with that? Now, if you look at a dictionary definition of that, as Brother Paul was suggesting, that does not mean garment, does it? It does not. It does not mean garment. That means something else. I don't even know what. Does anybody know what that means? What the word that is in grammar? What kind of a word is it? Conjunction. I'm going to go with that. I have no idea. Don't even know what conjunction means. It's a conjunction. I thought conjunctions are what stars did. So, yeah? Okay, so I don't want to embarrass anyone or myself, so we'll just leave it at we don't know what it means. Go on then.
But I think that, okay, it can be pronoun, it can be conjunctive, but the way we are going to use it is we are going to see according to the sentence, which one are we going to take? Is it pronoun or conjunction? So I suggest that it can be pronoun because how it is going to determine whether it's going to be a person or whether it's going to be a thing. So that is what
Okay, so I'm okay with that. So we've said that that is a garment here. Is that rule number 5? The Bible is defining what the word that means. Everybody okay with that? You okay with that, Sister Emma? Because that was the point you wanted to make, isn't it? Okay, so pertaineth means belong. Now we went to a dictionary, we went to Noel Webster's dictionary, but we could have gone to the Bible and seen the same thing. But we didn't even need to do that, did we? Where could we have gone? Brother Dennis, you said no. Where could we have gone? Oh, sorry. So where could we have gone? Don't need to go to the Bible. Sorry, we don't need to go to those other verses. We don't need to go to Webster's dictionary. Where could we have gone? We go to, right, we stay in the verse, and it says woman's, possessive, apostrophe yes. So it says that means belongs to a woman, so we can define what pertaineth means. You can do it in the verse itself. You don't need to go anywhere. We all agree with that. We've followed rule number 5 accurately. We've done it all properly. We didn't do any guesswork. We didn't have our own creed. We don't care about what the subject is, but we don't have any prejudice. We didn't try to manipulate the data, and we've stumbled and crawled along, so we didn't have any pride. Someone said, I never make any mistakes. I'm perfect. We've realized that we've seen things in the wrong way. We've got a level of humility. Yes? So we follow the rule properly, I'm suggesting. Everybody agree? You don't agree? Yes or no? Just tell me yes or no, you agree? Okay, we agree. So we're all in agreement that the woman shall not wear a garment which belongs to a man, and a man shall not wear a garment which belongs to a woman. So in the English, it all sounds good. Yes? Good in the sense that it's now structured, it's all working. We've used the rules, so we're approaching this in the right way. Everyone okay with that? Yeah? And the problem is when you do that, the verse looks ugly. Yeah? First of all, it looks ugly. And then the second thing, maybe you don't think it looks ugly, I don't know. The second thing, it doesn't fit with what? What doesn't it fit with? This is 3,500 years ago, and what are men wearing? Robes. What are women wearing? Robes. Go to the New Testament, jump forward 1,500 years. What's Christ wearing? Robes. What's women wearing? Robes. All wearing robes. Jump forward 500 years and they're still wearing the same thing. For the vast amount of human history, when this verse was made, everyone's breaking the verse. Are we okay with that? If we can get over this issue, which I think is quite petty, that people are going to tell you it's the style of the robe, or different colours, or women have flowers on their robes and men have, I don't know, plain or bold blocks or checks or something. All of that is supposition and guesswork, and we should avoid that. It's conspiracies. The verse in the English says, men and women should not wear each other's clothing. And the problem with that is this verse is 3,500 years old, and for around, we'll say, 2,000 years of that history, everyone is breaking the rule. So all those people are abomination. If we're willing to say that. So does Jesus wear the same clothing as his mother? Now those stalwarts who love the verse in the first place, who want to apply it the way Ellen White would apply it, they say that can't be so. We can't call Christ an abomination, neither his mother. So what we're saying is things that are blasphemous. And why did they say that? Why did they say what we're saying is blasphemous? Why can they say that? Would you agree that Jesus was abomination? Of course you wouldn't. But you're all willing to say that he and his mother wear the same clothes. So where's the disconnect? If you're going to approach this in the English, what are you going to be forced to do? No, they're not going to make Christ an abomination. What will you be forced to do? You have to start manipulating and changing stuff, twisting it slightly to say, women shall not wear the same style of garment that a man wears. So you're going to have to start adding style into this. It doesn't say it in the passage, so it's all about style now. So they can both wear robes, Jesus and his mother, but there'll be a different style or colour. You're going to have to make some distinction, and you start building things into the verse that aren't there. Otherwise you come up with crazy answers. Now if you think that's okay to do that, or it's crazy, think what Ellen White does to that. Ellen White doesn't just talk about some small variation in style between Jesus' clothing and his mother's. She's going to say, this actually means trousers and dresses. She takes it even further. And nowhere in these verses, the history doesn't teach it, the verse doesn't teach it. So our whole approach when we deal with this verse in the English is problematic from beginning to end. That's what I want us to see. So what we're going to do is, we've laboured this point for a number of lessons now. We've gone through it. People might say, too much. You've gone through it too much now. So what I want to do is say, let's approach this verse not in the English, but in a different language. You've got two choices. We can either do it in the Hebrew or the Greek. Okay with that? So what we'll do in our next class is, we'll start looking at this in the Hebrew. See how we would approach it in the Hebrew, if it would all be the same thing. So I'm going to suggest already before we do that it's not going to look the same. It will be different when you start approaching this in the Hebrew. Are we okay with that? So to give you a clue, part of the problem that we had yesterday when we did this was I was looking at it differently, and Sister Emma was looking at it differently. She was looking at it in English, and I was looking at it in the Hebrew. So I already gave you a clue that I think the structuring of it in the Hebrew is different than it is in the English. So we'll explore together and learn together. So if you have a chance over breakfast, review the verse in the Hebrew. Go to Strong's, King James Plus, and start looking at it and see what we can make of what's going on. So we're going to start looking at it in the Hebrew. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give you praise and thanks for your goodness. We ask that you would continue to guide and direct us. Lord, help us to enjoy studying your word, to find pleasure in it. At the same time, we ask that we would continue to have reverence for the sacredness of the words of life. But Father, as we read, we know that we are challenged. We're challenged by our own preconceived ideas, by our own limitations, by the mistakes that we make because we don't pay attention. Lord, we know that you have not revealed everything to us. All of this brings us to a place, Father, that we might not have confidence of where we are today and what you are doing with us. But as we see how you raise and use human beings, may we see, Father, that for whatever reason you have chosen us not only to be here at this school, but to be in this movement. Help us, Father, not to falter or to waver in our faith, in the belief that you have set us apart for a holy use. Breathe upon us the breath of God today, Father, and may we live in accordance with the high calling in Christ Jesus.